All right, let's jump right in. Today we're talking about a revolution, and it's happening at this wild intersection of finance, AI, and the truly mind-bending world of quantum computing. We're going to see how this powerful trio is about to completely change the game for one of the most important jobs on Earth, managing financial risk.
So let me just start with this question. What if your bank could figure out its entire risk for the day in just 15 minutes? I mean, these are calculations that right now can take all night. So what if they could get it done in the time it takes you to grab a coffee? It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but believe me, it's becoming very, very real.
Okay, so let's get into why this insane speed is suddenly so important. Banks today are caught in this crazy high-stakes race, and they're being squeezed from two sides by these massive forces that are pushing in totally opposite directions.
On one side, you've got the regulators. Ever since the 2008 financial crisis, they've brought in much tougher rules, things like Basel III. And these rules demand that banks are constantly running these super complex calculations to prove they're stable. But at the exact same time, the markets themselves are speeding up like crazy. We're moving to what's called T+0, or same-day settlement. Trades have to be finalized in just a few hours, not days. So you see the problem, right? They have to do way more complex math in way, way less time.
And this right here shows you what that pressure looks like in the real world. Banks have to maintain what's called a capital adequacy ratio. So, for example, in India, that requirement is 11.5%. Figuring this out almost in real time is a huge, huge task, but it's absolutely essential. It's how a bank proves it can survive a major financial shock.
So, with all these demands just piling on, the technology that banks have been using for decades, well, it's starting to break. They are literally hitting a computational wall.
6 to 8 hours, that is how long it takes a standard high-powered server at a bank to run just one of these critical risk calculations. Think about that. In a market that's moving by the millisecond, taking 8 hours to understand your risk, that's like trying to win a Formula One race by only looking in your rearview mirror. It's just not going to work.
And this chart, this just shows the problem perfectly. See that red line? Traditional computing methods like something called a Monte Carlo simulation basically play a massive what-if game with thousands, even millions of scenarios. But as you add more complexity, that red line shows you the time it takes just explodes. It goes vertical. It becomes completely impossible to manage.
So you have to ask, right? If the old ways are breaking, how on earth can banks possibly keep up with this? How do you even begin to solve a problem that's growing exponentially?
Well, you don't just take a step, you take a leap. And that leap is into a totally new kind of computing, quantum computing. And listen, this isn't just a slightly faster computer. It's a completely different way of looking at the world and processing information. It plays by a whole new set of rules. Let's go back to that chart. Now look at the green line. That's the quantum way. See how instead of exploding upwards, it stays almost flat? This is what experts call a quadratic speedup, and it is a total game changer. The same complexity that just crushes a classical computer, a quantum approach handles it no problem.
So, how does it do this? Well, the magic ingredient is an algorithm called Quantum Amplitude Estimation, or QAE. Now, you don't need a PhD in physics to get the big idea here. It's basically this. Where a normal computer might have to run, say, 10,000 different scenarios to get the right answer, a quantum computer using QAE can get that same answer by looking at just the square root of that, only 100 scenarios. It's just an unbelievable leap in efficiency. It's about working smarter, not just harder. And this amazing speedup, it isn't just theory or something happening in a lab. When you apply this to actual real-world banking problems, the results are, well, they're nothing short of radical.
How radical? How about 95 to 96% faster? That's a real number. That's the reduction in time when using these new quantum hybrid systems to predict if a trading partner is about to default on a payment. A job that took hours can now be done in minutes.
And you know, it's not just about speed. It's also about being smarter. Take credit risk. A classic AI model might get it right about 82% of the time, but a quantum-boosted version, that gets the accuracy up to over 91%. That means fewer bad loans are approved, which makes the whole financial system that much safer.
So what does all this mean in actual money? Well, for brokers in India who are using these quantum-optimized systems for that T+0 same-day settlement, it has freed up an absolutely staggering 13,200 crore rupees in capital. That's money that used to be tied up, just sitting there as a safety net, that can now be invested back into the economy to fuel growth. It's huge.
This table just hammers the point home. I mean, look at this. It's across the board. Calculating risk-weighted assets? That drops from 8 hours down to about an hour and a half. Running liquidity stress tests? From 9 hours down to around 90 minutes. We are consistently seeing improvements of over 80% on every critical task.
And this is why that whole move to T+0 settlement is so important when you pair it with quantum. This chart shows it perfectly. As you shrink that settlement time from days down to hours, the risk that the other guy in your trade might go broke before you get your money, that risk just plummets. And the costs of managing all that risk go down right along with it.
So what does this all mean for the future? Well, it's not about tossing out all the computers we have now and replacing them with quantum ones. No, the real path forward, it's a hybrid one.
This picture shows you the new setup perfectly. Think of it like a team. The classical computers, the ones we have now, they're great at the prep work, cleaning up data, finding basic patterns. They do all that, and then they hand off the really heavy lifting, the crazy complex simulations and optimizations to the quantum processors. They work together, each one playing to its unique strengths.
But of course, we've got to be realistic here. This is not some simple plug-and-play fix. The really powerful fault-tolerant quantum computers we're all waiting for, they're probably still 5 to 10 years out. And there's this massive shortage of talent, people who actually understand both finance and quantum physics. Plus the cost. A big bank could be looking at 10 to 50 crore rupees a year. And finally, the regulators are still trying to figure out how to even write the rules for this powerful new tech.
Which really brings us to the final big thought here. This technology is creating an incredible competitive advantage. The banks that get in early are getting an 80% speed advantage, which means better decisions, better pricing, and safer operations. So as quantum AI completely redraws the map for finance, the real question is, who is going to adapt and who is going to be left behind?